Hello and welcome to the channel. Today what I've got is another video as part of the Data Mapper Pattern series, and we're going to talk about regular expressions in the new Data Mapper. Let's go. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about why this is important, and for those of you that may not be familiar with the term regular expressions, a regular expression is a sequence of characters that specifies a match pattern in text. Usually patterns are used by search string algorithms such as find and replace. And basically you can also use it for input validation as well. So that's a definition from Wikipedia. So more practically speaking, if you ever go to say a website and they do some client-side validation, usually around postal codes, phone numbers, social insurance numbers, things like that, that's where you want to do it. And instead of being able to hard code specific use cases, what you can do is use patterns and be a little bit more flexible. And so that's kind of, why these regular expressions are important. Now, if we think about Data Mapper and we're trying to transform data, I think some of the benefits of using this approach is number one, validating data. One of sort of the principles that I have, certainly earlier in my career when I was leading middleware teams was don't pollute downstream systems. So if you get data and you know it's bad, don't just pass it on. All you're doing is making a bigger mess. So I think doing some validation is important. And then I think also transforming data in the interests of consistency. And you're going to see that in one of the examples where that becomes pretty important. So I mentioned a few use cases, some additional ones, URLs, IP addresses, being able to validate that text sort of conforms to standards. Dates, that's a big one, especially if you think about different formats depending upon where in the world you are. Phone numbers, credit card validations, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and then also like Social Security if you're in the US, in Canada, social insurance numbers. And in the event that this is the first video of the series that you're watching, do you want to just take a brief moment to talk about the Data Mapper? So this is something that is in public preview right now. Obviously, it's a visual graphical experience. This is currently available for VS Code in Logic App Standard. We do have support for XML and JSON, so you can map XML to JSON, JSON to XML, JSON to JSON, XML to XML, etc. We do have a manual test experience that you can take advantage of. You'll see that in the demo. It is drag and drop, so I can drag material over to another node on the other side. We've got pre-built functions. We're going to use those today. We're going to use the two regular expression functions. We've got a map checker over here to help with identifying issues, errors, warnings, etc. And then we also have a property panel for easy configuration. So that is a brief introduction on the Data Mapper itself. If you are using the Data Mapper, and we certainly appreciate people that do, this is the best place to log any feedback. So just head over to this particular URL. I'll include it in the video description. And this allows you to create a new issue, specify its Data Mapper, and then from there, this feedback goes directly to the engineers that are working on this feature, and this is the best way to make sure your feedback is seen and reviewed. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the built-in functions. So we have two that are related to a regular expression. So we've got the first one, regular expression matches. Go ahead, click on the FX button, and then what you can do is go ahead and search for these. Otherwise, you'll find them in the string category. So regular expression matches returns true or false based upon whether or not the string input matches a specified regular expression. So a good one for this, and we're going to see this next, is a zip code. We've got some data in. We want to make sure it's valid. If it's valid, we'll map it. If not, we won't. The next one is regular expression replaces. So this is kind of your string replacement. But what's kind of cool about this, and you're going to see in the example, is that we can provide a list of inputs. Basically, these are the values we're looking for. And if any of these are detected, then replace it with another given substring. So that's pretty cool. You don't have to have a bunch of these individual statements. You can have a sort of longer list, and we'll check all of those. Okay, so demo number one. What we're going to do here, very simple payload, that's fine. We've got a zip code. We want to make sure the zip code conforms to one of these following conventions. Basically 5 numbers, or 5 numbers dash 4 numbers, or 5 numbers space 4 numbers. And then if it does, we will map it to the destination. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and ignore it. Okay, so I'm in VS Code. We're going to validate our zip code here. And if the validation matches or is successful, we're going to then check the if condition. And basically, if this is true, then what we're going to do is map our value across. Now we could do an if else here. So if it matches, great, do this. Otherwise, do something else. But for now, didn't go that far. So once again, our regular expression functions, just come over here, just type regular. And then you've got the two. We're going to use the regular expression matches here. And you can see when we drop it down on our canvas, we've got sort of two inputs. We've got our input string, which is going to be our zip code. And then what we've got is basically this pattern. Now, what I did here is I just clicked on the enter custom value, and then I pasted this particular value here. Now, I'm not going to pretend that I'm a regular expressions guru. I'm not sure there are that many, to be honest. But what I did do is I went into a web search. Actually, I think I went to ChatGPT for this one, actually. And or actually Bing, which uses ChatGPT, and basically asked for a regular expression that does this. And this is the output that I received. And I've tested it. Seems to work. So I'm happy with it. But basically, just go ahead, grab your string, your regular expression, plunk it into here as a custom value, and then life's good. Now, this particular function is going to return true or false. And so that's why we're going to then chain it with this if condition. And so what we're going to do is we're going to select basically the output of our regular expression, right, as our input here. And then we're just going to, it's going to evaluate, is that true or not? And then if it is true, what is our output? And in this case, our output is actually going to be our zip code. So we're going to have a valid zip code, which will then map when this is actually true. So let's go ahead, let's test this. Let's bring up our test harness. And here what we've got is, let's start with sort of our first use case. So we've got a zip code here, 85396. Let's go ahead, let's test that. And we can see that it gets mapped across. So life is good. Now let's do the second use case where we've got a dash and then 4 numbers. Let's go ahead, that looks good as well. And then our third and final scenario with space. Let's go ahead and ensure that maps across. So that is cool, but now let's go ahead and sort of find the negative test, right? So let's go ahead and we'll just use like a postal code, right? So this is not going to work. And you can see it's ignored, right? So we don't actually have the value here. So basically, this condition would have evaluated to false. False gets passed to the if. As a result, we don't go ahead and map it. So let's just go ahead and turn this back to a valid zip code. Life's good. Okay, so that's the first one. That's our validation. Once again, a lot of options here. Could do things with email addresses, phone numbers, SIN, social insurance, social security numbers, etc. Go ahead, find your favorite website online that will help you with regular expressions, copy and paste. Life's good from that perspective. All right, so this is another scenario that's, I think, quite useful, quite popular. So certainly, when I was working for an energy company in Alberta here in Canada, we would do all of these integrations related to like finance, right? Where we would basically sell energy products to different counterparties and then have to bill them and record those transactions. And never failed, right? All of these invoices would come in, and they'd come in from different companies, and the companies would often have different sort of titles. So like in the sense, it could be like Contoso LLC in caps, or Contoso LLC in lowercase, or Contoso Corp, uppercase, Contoso Company, right? And so you get all of these variations, and what it does lead to is this mess of data where you've got a bunch of inconsistency, and then you think, well, how many customers do I have? And then you have to do distincts, and it becomes super messy. So the idea here is like, we want to be able to find any instances of these patterns, right? Any, uppercase, lowercase, whatever, and always replace it with corporation so that it's always being consistent when it lands in the destination system. So that's the scenario that we've got going on here. Let's flip over into VS Code. All right, similar structure here. All I've done is I've added a company node. Now this one is a little bit different. We are using this particular function, regular expression replace. And if I go ahead and click on this, let's take a look at what we need to provide. So first one is number one, an input string. So this is our company. It's going to come from our source document. Then we need to provide our pattern. And so this is the pattern here. So basically what I had shown you before, right? So we've got this list of company values. And what we're going to then do is provide a replacement string. And this replacement string is basically a custom value. And basically I've just typed in the word corporation. So that's basically what it is. If, none of these values are found, it'll just, the data will still move through it. We're not going to block anything. It's only if we find anything. It's kind of just like a string replacement, right? If you find it, you'll replace it. If not, you'll just pass the rest of the payload through. So let's go over here. So you can see we've got company here, Contoso lowercase LLC. So let's go ahead. We can now see Contoso Corporation. Let's just go ahead and just remove the LLC altogether. And then this should just come across as Contoso. Let's come back over here. Let's do capital LLC this time. Corporation. Let's go ahead and do, what was it? Corp. And same thing, right? So you get the point. But once again, this is very valuable when you have sort of a list of inputs and you want to sort of choose when any of those occur. Go ahead and sort of replace it with another value. So yeah, so that concludes the video. Hopefully find this useful. These are pretty new functions that we did add based upon customer feedback. I don't think these exist in BizTalk, so this I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this could be sort of some net new functionality that we're delivering here as well. So thanks again for tuning into this video, and look for more videos on this subject. Take care.